Beautiful. Welcome to the coaching call. And how have y'all been since Tuesday?
Good.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, feel
How
free
about you?
to chime in. Yeah, good. Just life. Spend a lot of time with my higher self as needed.
Is it still snowing?
It's not, but it's probably going to start snowing again. Right, Christina? Right, Lisa? I think it's going to start snowing again later tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, not much though.
no, I think we're getting like 1 to 3 inches. What's your weather like, Gloria? Is it raining?
No, right now it's fine. It's actually like nice, but I heard that it's gonna rain. I don't know. I think Monday or Tuesday, something like that. So yeah, we're still in that weather.
That weather system. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. You guys don't have any flooding, do you?
Well, we live in Santa Clarita, and when it was raining very heavy, like a couple of weeks ago, we had a lot of like warning, like float. We are in a floating zone, blah blah blah. But like to be honest, like I didn't see anything around my house or like my neighborhood. So, and I try to have. I don't like to drive when it's raining, and especially in LA, like big highways, and then people go too fast, so you cannot see very well. So I try to just stay at home and not go outside. So I couldn't see very well, but supposedly it's like a floating zone.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I hope it stays safe for you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. Thank you.
Good. So what you got? As I said, this is your time. I'm here to just answer questions. This isn't typically like a class session so much as a feedback session. So possible topics would be reflections on what we talked about with imposter syndrome and judgment and non-judgment on Tuesday. It could be if you've started to do the homework and have questions or just thoughts about what's going on, or just anything that's going on in your life right now that you might want to get some guidance around or clarity around. That's why I'm here. So anyone who'd like to start, please do.
Sorry, I'm always jumping in, but I just had this thought that I wanted to ask you. Like, I really love joining these sessions, meeting you all and doing this, and what you teach us is amazing. But I think I'm struggling into like I'm always present here and taking advantage, like fully in, but then I disconnect and then it's like nothing happens. Like it's just like my life go back to normal. So like I don't like I have my notes where I was like I need to sit with the topic that I am not fat, blah blah blah, sit with this, or like another thing like what do I want to do, what is my goal, why. So like a lot of things coming in the sessions and then I just like turn away. And it's not like I want to turn away, but it's just like I don't know. And I think my question is if you have any suggestions on how can I or everyone, I don't know if you're in the same boat as me, can we get some suggestions or tips on how can I not only like just forget what happened and come again on Friday or come again on Tuesday, but like make that time or space, even if I'm not with you guys. And I think the fact that I'm with you is it makes me accountable, right? But because I don't have you, it's just like me. How do I start? How do I make the time? That's my question. If you can give us, give me a little bit of like suggestions of what to do. Probably the suggestion is just like put a note in your calendar. I did that yesterday. I didn't follow it.
No, because that's just a note in your calendar, right?
I mean, it was a reminder, like at this time I'm gonna be doing this, and I didn't do it. So,
well, yeah. I mean, what was it that you put in your calendar? Just working with.
I put Rachel homework.
Okay.
Rachel homework at 3 p.m. And to be honest, I think I didn't put an alarm, and I was doing something else, and I just literally like forgot. But if I put in more importance, like I have a call, I will never forget. I will never miss that work call, you know, like I'll be there. So even if I doesn't have an alarm or something like, so I really wanna just kind of like take advantage of those lessons that we're teaching every day and do the self work more and not just to show up, you know, like do the homework and do the internal work so I can take more of everything.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. And that's a wonderful question, by the way. And so, and I love specifics. That's why I asked what was in your calendar. And if it was do the homework and then the first thing we do non-judgmentally is ask why you didn't do it, right? And there may be 1,000 reasons for why you didn't. Something else was more pressing. So if you have something like that, you know, asking yourself, okay, well, if I have to reschedule this, I'm going to show you this because, you know, I'm old school, but I have this kind of notebook, and you can see if I have to reschedule something that I need to do, I'll make sure I put it somewhere else in my calendar. So if you can't do it at 3 because you have a work call or the dog is choking on a toy or something that you know, or you're just tired, reschedule it. Don't just blow it off, right? So what we do is we make it a priority. But, or as Natalie Goldberg talks about, structure, and that's a terrible word for a lot of us. But when you really structure your time to do the things that you want to do, which I'm hearing you want to do, then it becomes a joyful thing. But what's underneath that is even more important, right? So I'm not telling you why at 3 o'clock you said no to the homework, but asking yourself why. What's the real reason? Is there some resistance there? Does it feel like work as opposed to something joyful to spend time with yourself and ask yourself these questions, right? So ask yourself, what is it that, you know, am I avoiding? And again, we ask these things with love and without judgment, because this isn't to shame you. This is, in fact, that's the opposite. We want to know more about ourselves, right? So what's the reason I keep putting off doing the homework? What's the reason as soon as I'm off a call with Rachel and the ladies here, I just forget and I carry on with my day? Why can't I bridge that gap? It's a great question to ask, but only you can answer it, right? And it may be that, I mean, it could be a number of things. You don't trust that this is going to be helpful for you. You want it to be, but you're not sure it could be. Maybe there are other factors that are, you know, like maybe this will work for other people, but not for me. There, you know, really asking these questions and getting to the underlying belief that's underneath the reason is very helpful. That's just about the why didn't I do the homework part. I'll answer the rest of your question in a minute, but what are your thoughts about that? Like, let's look at it. What was the reason and again, this is not about judgment. This is about understanding and curiosity. What was the reason at 3 o'clock you didn't do the homework, even though you took the time to set an alarm for it?
Yeah, like I said, like it didn't remind me and then I just forgot. But then later in the day I was like, oh, I didn't do this. So then let me check what was the homework. And then I was looking, I took a screenshot, I was reading. And then I just literally like I just choose to watch Netflix. Like that's the reality. And when you're telling me like if I go like deeper to see, like it's not like I don't feel like I don't want to spend time with me or try to write the letter, you know, like or the homework. I don't know, I just feel like when I do the sessions with you, it's like I have a guide, you know, and I haven't tried to do it. For example, free writing by myself, I haven't tried it. So maybe it's a little bit of like I feel like I don't know if I'm gonna do it. Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna just write like stupid things. Like
Judge. That's judgment.
Okay.
That's judgment, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. It's so beautiful that you're bringing this up. This is why we do this, right? So that we can look it in the face and go, I'm judging myself, God damn it. You know what I mean? And be playful about it. Look at you judging yourself. Of course, you know, what if you get it wrong? Who gives a shit? You're going to do it the way you do it, you know? And there is no right or wrong. Remember, these are homework invitations, as we've said, right? And they're designed to help you go deeper on your own. You can say, I don't want to do it. But there are other ways that you can incorporate what we're talking about. The homework is there to go deeper with what we just spoke about in class. Yes, it will help you embody this work more. But if it doesn't, if a homework assignment doesn't speak to you, you always have the option of just journaling about class for yourself, you know, or just making a few notes about some things, including I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble incorporating what we talk about in class, or like I feel like I need Rachel as a guide, you know, and what's that disconnect? Let me write about that for a while. Where is that? You know, why don't I trust myself? Right. And so now let's back it up. And we're talking about you, Gloria. Okay. The way that you're living your life, and this is the non-judgment part, right? The way that you're living your life is fine. All you're doing is delving a little deeper, right? And when we talk about the higher self, you know, and we talk about because you did the write yourself open and really spending time with your highest self. Just because that class ended doesn't mean we're not doing that anymore, right? Your highest self is with you all the time, has been from the moment you took your first breath. Lean into her. Ask her, what's all this about? You know, it's about getting into the habit of turning inward for your first assistance, right? Because as you've experienced, I can't be on a call 24/7 with you, and that wouldn't help you anyway, right? Because that's not, you know, I'm like the training wheels, but you are the awesome bike, you know? And so you are the one who gets to ride off into the sunset and do your life. So what you're doing in your life is beautiful. If you want to make changes with your life, beautiful, right? That's fine. It's because the thing that stops us is the judgment part. It's like, well, I know I'm supposed to accept my body for the way it is, but I don't like it. Okay. So that's where you start. What is it you don't like? Ask yourself the question. Make a list of all the parts of your body that you don't like and go deeper with that. Why? You know,
Yeah, to be honest, these days, like I'm not being very conscious about my body. Like I haven't like criticized it or anything, but I've been like watching in the mirror and sometimes like, your body's not that bad. Like, why are you too hard on yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so then my point, and what I want to see is like probably this exercise and to identify the judgment can help me to have this thought like why I am judging this, right? And then maybe I'll figure it out that it's not that bad or it's not the way that I was thinking, right? So I think that's a positive thing. I mean, I'm not where I want to, but it's like at least I realize that it's not that bad, you know?
Absolutely. And that's the other part. When we eliminate the judgment of ourselves, and again, remember, it's not that feeling of judgment that we initially get. It's what do we do with the judgment that matters. Do we stay in a judging place, or do we continue to ask questions? Do we continue to go deeper? right? Like you said, when you look in the mirror and you're like, "Ah, it's not really that bad, right?" And then then that frees up a lot of energy to say, you know, my body is healthy. My body carries my spirit around. My body is has done wonderful things for me and does do wonderful things for me. I can walk my dogs. I can, you know, dance and whatever, you know, the things that I enjoy doing, moving this meat suit around that holds my spirit. That's we can open ourselves to that kind of conversation with ourselves when we don't judge, right? Or when we don't allow our judgment of ourselves to take over. And that's true of everything, whether it's your body or your behavior or like, yeah. So that's one thing, but I want to address the other part that you were talking about. How do you take the teachings, the lessons that you're learning week to week out into your daily life? And this is for everybody. It's really about awareness, right? We talked about the self-awareness part. That's the mind part of the three W's, right? The self-awareness, the self-compassion, the self-trust, all equaling self-acceptance. Self-awareness is where we start. So that doesn't mean self-consciousness, but it just means I am awakened and aware to the choices I'm making, the things I'm thinking, and the things that I'm doing in a loving and non-judgmental way. We all mess up. You know, just yesterday I was on a call with a bank, and I lost my temper like that because of their inefficiency. I have a real issue with inefficiency, and I accept that about myself. When you know, banks and organizations are inefficient, I get very pissy. So I got off the call and I was like, Rachel, you snapped at that poor lady, and it wasn't even her fault. She's a minimum wage, you know, you know, whatever. And you're what just you don't do that next time you get on the phone. I was like, okay. But I didn't shame myself. I said, you have every right to be pissed off, but you are the one who's getting stressed, not her. I said this to myself yesterday, walking around my kitchen, being all upset. You're getting upset. She doesn't give a shit. Relax. I said this out loud to myself. So, humor, non-judgment, self-awareness, all of those things allowed me to get myself back in order. So when I had to get back on the phone with the bank 6 more times yesterday, I was a lot more playful with them. It's like, wow, okay, this is happening. All right, well, okay, let's now what, you know? And it made they laughed, I laughed. It was a whole different situation, right? So it's really about just paying attention to our behaviors, being aware of what we're doing and thinking, right? So where am I judging myself? You know, I chastised myself yesterday. That was not nice what you just did. And I wasn't really mean to her, but I was just very short with her, which is not like me. And I was like, you should not have done that. Now that wasn't a shame. That was like a, hey, self-awareness. Oh, that didn't feel good to me. Never mind how it felt to her. Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And everybody else, feel free to chime in. Anything else that you might suggest to Gloria about how do you guys take what you're learning and apply it to your day-to-day life? Because this is a community call. So
I actually listened to your holy self or the meditation that you sent
Mhm.
through
Yeah.
yesterday and today, and that it just kind of brought me back to first of all, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. But also put me in the headspace to then think about what we did in class, and it just brought it back into into my headspace, I guess. It just quietened my mind so I'd have a moment to think about the letter of forgiveness and the pressure I put on myself. And just, you know, that just helped me just to remind me of this, because it's so easy. I'm the same way, that I do something, and if I get interrupted, it's like I'm writing a text and I get a phone call. That text can sit there until, you know, a week later when somebody says you never responded, and it's like, yeah, I did. And then there it is sitting there, not sent. So I just move from one thing to another. And then if I don't get back there, 1 o'clock on Monday or Tuesday, whatever day it is, I'll get back there. But it helped me just doing the meditation to sort of bring me back to that quiet place of self-awareness. So, but I'm with Gloria. It's very easy for me to think oh, if the reminder comes through and something else is happening at the same time, just sort of move on and then completely forget about coming back. But that helps. So it's something.
Yeah, for sure. And this is how so it's so funny, right? Like, be your own best friend. Nice course. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? Look how fucking hard it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, looking at yourself is not always the easiest thing,
That's
It's
right.
like,
We're bad
yeah,
friends.
okay,
We're
I'll
very
write
bad
this
friends.
forgiveness. And then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, that. Okay, yeah, I need chocolate.
And so
You
you
know.
shall have chocolate.
So,
And and I'm a chocolate every night person. But that's part of the playfulness too, is you know, is even that, like, I know it seems sometimes like I nitpick on things, but I want you to see the process in the smallest choices. Oh, this was a stressful, I need chocolate. Okay,
right.
taking a moment and going, do you need the chocolate? Do you want the chocolate?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you want the chocolate, have the fucking chocolate and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? I got off the phone with the bank. I don't drink. I was like, I need a glass of wine. That's, and I had a glass of wine. But it took me walking around the kitchen going like, do you really need a glass of wine? Do you really need it? I was like, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
wine. So I had a glass of wine and it was delightful. And then it was done, but again, that self-awareness, right? And remember everybody, don't forget how powerful you are. Everything that you do and feel and all the choices you make come from you, which is a beautiful, holy place. So own that, and it's like, I didn't get to that text. Let me apologize to the person I didn't text because my bad. And then I'll get to it when I get to it, or I'll respond to it then. It doesn't mean that we have to defend ourselves. It means, oh yeah, I tripped up. Like, to myself yesterday, you were not nice to that lady on the phone. That's true. I was not nice on the phone. What can we do for reparations? Well, I can't call her again because she's those call center people. I'm not going to talk to her again, but I can make sure I don't do that in the future. And I can also make sure that I don't kick myself for it. Just correct the behavior. But self-inquiry, why did I do that? And and asking yourself, really, Gloria, asking yourself, why didn't I just reschedule the homework? Why did I choose Netflix over doing this work? Just ask yourself, Rachel, why were you mean to that lady? Why were you? Well, because I really don't like dealing with banks and I really don't like inefficiency. Okay. But that doesn't give you any right to be mean to that lady. Oh, yeah, that's true. You know what I mean? Let me try that again. Right? So, and we're human.
Yeah.
We're human. So that's why forgiveness, and that's what the assignment is, that's why forgiveness is so important. Right? Is can we just unclench, stop kicking our own asses, and make room for the energy to flow instead of be stagnant. Judgment and kicking our ass stops the flow. So we just sit there going like, I suck, I'm a terrible person. Right. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for that. And Gloria, thank you for sharing those things. But again, what Lisa said is also important. I'm not trying to give you more stuff to do, but I am a huge proponent of finding some way to bring meditation into your life on a daily basis. And I don't mean Om meditation. That's great. I do that every morning, but uh, there are other kinds of meditation. there's a meditation of showering, bathing, ablutions, as I call it, right? Our ablutions, we're cleaning this body that holds our spirit. Your intention is everything. Making lunch, eating lunch, that is a or dinner or breakfast, that all of that is a meditation if you care to make it so. Anytime you're spending time with your highest self, anytime you're spending time in loving conscious awareness of what you're doing is a meditation, right? But then, as Lisa said, the sitting with a guided meditation, and there are many of them either on my podcast or I've sent a bunch of them to you who are in the Write Yourself Open, you know, or finding your own online, right? That's a great way to just like, let me get into my body a little bit. Let me get reconnected. There are so many distractions in the world right now. Well, there always have been, but especially now, that it's very easy for us to lose ourselves, capital S selves, right? So that's a good practice, is just taking some of the pressure off yourself to feel like you have to accomplish something, and then allow for the desire to accomplish something to come in, as opposed to have to, I get to. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between those two words. I have to unload the dishwasher. I get to unload the dishwasher. I have a dishwasher. What a blessing. I get to do that. I have to clean the cat box. I get to clean the cat box. Oh, yay. My little babies will be so happy with me. Right? It's an act of, I try to teach that to my son. His job is to clean the cat box first thing in the morning when he wakes up, and grumble, grumble. And it's like, listen, you love them. So every time you're scooping their poop, I want you to remember how much you love them. And if they weren't here anymore, they wouldn't be pooping and you'd be very sad. It seems to help. But I mean, but that's an example. Again, it seems like I'm nitpicking on tiny little things, but everything adds up. That speaks to what Gloria was saying earlier. Like, okay, we're in class, we have Rachel's guidance, and then we click off, and now we're back to life. Life is giving you millions of micro moments to practice this stuff if you bring the awareness to it. Right? Does that make sense? Because sometimes I'll get vague, and I don't mean to get vague.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Probably like, just the being more aware of like why we take those decisions, or you know, I'm gonna practice that, and then also like a little bit of have like if I have a commitment with a client or a team call, like I should have a commitment with myself too. So I will, you know, maybe just because also like the no, you know, but probably I can be like, I'm gonna separate like 15 minutes for myself. And if that goes very well, it could go longer, you know. But if not, I just did a commitment with myself of 15 minutes into review the homework, or into do some free writing, or into do a little bit of solitude, you know, something. But like that little commitment can get me in the habit of spending time with myself.
Yes. And in week 5, we're going to talk more about solitude and the importance of solitude. And so there'll be, you know, and we'll get into this, but yes, that's important to be able to prioritize time for yourself, even if it's 15 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, like every day I give them my dogs between like 40 and 1 hour a day for walk. Like, why I cannot give myself 15 minutes, you know? Like,
great.
It's nothing. It's nothing.
Right. Great point. Really great point. Yeah. And you begin to reap the benefits of it immediately. So Lisa was just saying, I just did the meditation, and that meditation is 15 minutes long or so. And that had lasting effects for her, way past the 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Right. So even doing something with a dedicated intention is really important. Right. So this is how we befriend ourselves. And when I say be your own best friend, what I'm talking about is knowing that you're never alone, because your highest self is always with you, looking after you. How you vision that, and for those of you who did the Write Yourself Open and you had a vision of what your highest self, how your highest self appeared to you, it can change, but you could think of your highest self as this diaphanous angel, that lives within you and without and within and without, or you could just see it as a clone of yourself, right? Or you could see, I guess for me, that's kind of how I see it, is like I have a twin, you know what I mean? And so she and I sit down and we chat and stuff like that. Like your best friend, right? So I do see her in more of a human form, but that's because that's how she appears to me, but she is not solid, right? Like she's me, and she's Christina, and she's Lisa, and she's Gloria, right? For each of you. And so knowing who that person is, knowing who that highest self is, it's like the is in there, that you go to in your most quiet moments, where everything's okay, where whatever part of you that self-soothes, that says, don't be so hard on yourself, or it's all right, just don't worry about those people or that thing, it's okay. That's your highest self saying ultimately, this doesn't really matter, it's not worth stressing over, right? You're bigger than this. Those kinds of um I was going to say affirmations, but that's not what I mean to say, but affirming messages to yourself, right? And we want to just turn the volume up on those, or we want to increase the frequency of those, so that you're literally, I can't stress it enough, talking to yourself out loud is so helpful. I know it sounds crazy, because that's how we were raised, is that when you talk to yourself, it means you should be in an institution, but that's not true. You'd be surprised how much faster you will connect with your highest self when you talk to her directly. And so if you can't do that, or you don't feel comfortable doing that yet, the letter writing is also really helpful. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I want to see if Christina wants to say something, and if we have time. I just want to talk about judgment with other people, because we talk a lot about judgment with ourselves, but like I have a little question about with others, but I want to give a space to Christina if she wants something to share.
Thank you, Gloria. Yeah, I mean, I kind of similar to I'm just connecting to what everyone's saying, because after Tuesday, and I wrote down, at the heading of my paper, letter of forgiveness to myself for my perceived shortcomings. Blank, blank page. Because all of a sudden it became very hard to do that. I was like, wow, this is really hard. I can't even write anything. And so I put it down. So what I'm realizing is to do a meditation like Lisa did, that would help me get myself back in that space, so that I could start writing. And then I also remembered, Rachel, you saying just doing like, what's it called? Like continuing writing, or
free writing.
Free writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh yeah, I could do that too. Just to get myself out of my looking at a blank page and saying, oh my God, this is too hard. And I realize it almost feels a little like emotional and scary to, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to forgive myself for? Like it feels big.
Mhm.
But it's probably just big because I haven't started it, like
Yeah.
it's so anyway.
Yeah,
uh,
I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's a great point. With an assignment like this, free writing is a great approach because what you can start to do is set a time. You could just set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and just write across. So, and what might help to start is um really think about yourself as a different person. Because I know it's hard for us to say what are our shortcomings. We all know what our shortcomings are. We just don't want to look at them, right? So, so if you're starting with this free writing and you're going, "Dear Christina, I just want you to know before anything else, I love you very much, but here are a couple things that I've noticed, and this is all right. I just want you to know I forgive you for being so hard on yourself, and I want you to know that I forgive you for for giving so much of yourself to others and not to yourself and whatever. I mean, here's me free writing while I talk, right? Whatever comes out of you is going to be fine. This is not graded and this is not for publication. So get it wrong, but just get it down, you know? And also what happens is as we do these exercises, they become easier. Right now everybody's up against this. I don't want to get it wrong. This is important. And I want to make sure I do it right. That's a judgment, as opposed to let me dive in and fuck it up. And even as we do that, we end up going deeper to some truth. It's weird. It's like some alchemy happens that after we do these exercises for a bit, we're better able to see like well, and feel even as you're writing it and you're feeling, I forgive you for being so hard on yourself. I forgive you, Rachel, for having no tolerance for inefficiency. You know, um, all of that, it becomes light and playful, right? So that's the idea here. This is not to make you guys feel bad. It's the opposite. It's not to focus on shortcomings or to falsely forgive yourself for things you're angry about in yourself or no, this is all about veracity. This is about what is true for me in this moment. And so play with it, you know. Maybe you spend 5 minutes writing about all the things that you love about yourself instead. That works. That's still a letter of forgiveness, you know. And I promise you, if you start the opposite and you start writing about all the things you don't like and all the things that you mess up and you're sounding very judgmental, keep going and eventually your mind will begin to correct. Because remember, the self as the best friend, we've already established it's so much easier for us to forgive our best friends and say, "Hey, honey, it's all right. You had a moment. Don't worry about it." Right? We will start to do that automatically because we're already wired to do that. We're just not used to doing it for ourselves. Does that make sense? So that's the practice, is getting used to doing it for yourself. Right. Like I did in the kitchen. Right. It's like, oh, I was embarrassed by that. I was embarrassed by how badly I handled that situation. And then I was like, well, don't be embarrassed. You just fucked up and you fucked it up. All right. Do it different. That's all. Non-judgment. Right? Because I know who I am. You guys know who you are. So be gentle with her. Yeah. Thank you, Christina. Any thoughts though? I'd love to hear your reflections on that. Does that help at all, or does that make it more confusing?
Oh, me? No,
Yeah.
um, no, it makes a lot of sense. I think, oh yeah. Um, what as I was listening to, I'm just realizing it's like anything new,
Yeah.
it's just, creating a new habit. And, because I haven't done anything, well, I mean, we did do the 4 week, write yourself open, but it just right now writing, thinking about forgiving myself just seemed really big, but that's because I just haven't sat down and just let myself go. Like you're saying, just let it be fun. It doesn't have to be, I'm not writing, like an epic story.
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah, I think it's,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just saying, I think it's just a matter of sitting down and doing it and letting whatever you right now, of course, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is just like Tuesday. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. It's not a problem. So I think for me, it's about getting myself into a space. So I think I will try listening to a meditation and then writing, because that will help me get out of
Yes.
the crazy thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. And you're right. It will. Even if you just sit and feel your feet and take 3 breaths before you start. Another thing, this does work, is a nice hug. All right, you ready? We're gonna do it. Yeah. Oh, that feels good, right? Doesn't it?
Feels
We
really good.
right? We don't do that for ourselves. Hey, I love you. I know you're not perfect, and that's why I love you. So let's go write our letter to ourselves, right? Or whatever. It just feels good to hug yourself, I find, especially when you're feeling bad. And I think we talked about this too. So there's this one, which is really brings it all in. And then there's this one where you take a deep breath and you stretch without hitting my plant, stretching out, chest opener, open that heart. Yeah. And if you have a bolster and you can lie on the floor, I mean, you know this, Christina, right? And letting yourself just drape over the bolster supporting your spine. And you're just doing that chest opener. Deep breath. I'll do that before sessions, before I teach a class, because you're running from one thing to another or whatever, doing it at work. Gloria, before you get on a call, that and this, and you're ready to go, right? And so that just brings you back into yourself, right? None of what I teach is about shaming who you are or saying who you are needs to change. It's about getting to know who you are, having the awareness to move and shift and realign the things that you would like to, right? I'm going to go on my, and then Gloria, we're going to get to you, but I want to go on my little soapbox for a second. So many of these classes and coaches and even therapy pre-assumes that there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed. The one that I'm really on a tear about lately is scarcity mindset, right? Have you all heard of scarcity mindset? Right. So scarcity mindset as opposed to growth mindset or success mindset. The idea that, you're not thinking big enough and in certain areas of your life, typically financial or business oriented. And I think that's a crock. There is no scarcity mindset. There's just mindset. Right. And in that moment, you may feel not great about yourself. When you sit with it like a friend and you do that self-inquiry, honey, what's wrong? Why don't you feel good about your body? Why don't you feel good about your business right now? What's going on? And you answer, well, I feel like a potato. I don't feel very, I don't feel very sexy, okay, tell me more. Listening to yourself the way you would listen to a friend is so helpful, because it's so hard for us to actually grab a friend and bitch about our weight or bitch about our bank account or our relationship, when we can start with ourselves and resolve a lot of those issues just by loving ourselves and listening to ourselves, not always even fixing it. In that moment, just say, yeah, right now I feel like I'm not using my talents to the best of my ability. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Good. That's your truth right now. That doesn't mean that's who you are. That's what I get upset about, the mindset part of it. And so you have to hire a coach who's going to teach you how to have a growth mindset, how you're going to learn how to make more money and get rid of limiting beliefs. That's another one. Listen, we all have limiting beliefs. They will only go away if we want them to. There are limiting beliefs. I'm not a brain surgeon. I have a limiting belief in my ability to to do that, right? But that doesn't make me a smaller person, right? So I have a limiting belief in that I used to walk miles a day, but now I have an injury, so I can't do that. Does that make me bad? No, but it opens up a new reality for me that I can do different things. Instead of shutting me down, it's opening me up, right? Okay, enough of me gabbing. Any questions about that before Gloria shares her thought? Okay. Go ahead, Gloria.
Yes, when we were talking on Tuesday, and I had this thought about like when we judge other people, and you say something about like we need to comprehend like why people do what they do, right? Like, so I think like my question is like let's say we have a situation and we judge that person, and then what do we do with that judgment? For example, like that person is he's acting like that because he's very like insecure, for example, or whatever, or his ego is big, or like what do we do with that thought? Because you say also the shadow work, but then like to be honest, sometimes like I don't think exactly the judgment will meaning like I have a big ego, or I'm like insecure, or so how can I practice when I notice a judgment with another person? How can I practice to what do I do with that judgment?
Great question. So let's say you're encountering someone with a big ego and you're noticing it, like maybe it's at work, right? And you're in a meeting and they're blah, 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 and I'm so important and whatever. And you're noticing this and you're judging, that you've made a judgment that this person has an inflated ego. Okay. A couple of things. One is to understand that that is part of our shadow, right? Is that perhaps you or all of us, like we all get, I mean, most of us get a little off put by people who are who monopolize time, who think they're more important than other people. That's because we've disowned that part in ourselves, right? Because we would never do that. We have spent our time making sure everyone has a chance to speak, like you just did with Christina, like making sure that other people are heard. So when we see people who don't do that, it makes us very uncomfortable. So just being aware of that is one thing, because that actually will connect you to the other person in a compassionate way. It's like, yeah, there are times that I wish I could do that too. I wish I could just make it the Gloria show or the Rachel show or the Lisa show or the Christina show. I'd love to do that, but this jackass, has done it instead of me. So just being aware of that is one thing. But what do you do about it is so once we realize how interconnected we are, it's much easier for us to say that person is having his own experience. He is also a spirit having a human experience. He has his lessons to learn in this life. Good luck, right? Now, If you're working with that person and they're getting in your face or they're stepping on your toes, or especially for women in a meeting where men interrupt like crazy when a woman is speaking, that's when you draw a boundary, which we're also going to talk about boundaries during one of these weeks. I forgot which one it is, right? So that's when you have to express your boundary and say, excuse me, I was speaking. Or, excuse me, I would like to comment, when he's done, right? So if like there'll be time for you to speak in a second, but I'd like to finish my thought. We have to do this. And it's a loving boundary. It's not a fuck you, Jack. It's not that, because that's not good energy to put into the quantum field. What it is, we may feel that, but it's not what we're putting into the quantum field in that moment. What we're doing instead is saying, I want us all to have a fair time to speak to one another. You're not saying that, but that's what your boundary is, creating that energy so that everyone will have a chance to speak. Your boundary actually brings the group together, because now we have more than just this guy's voice, right? Or, we're going to have your voice. We're going to have the next person's voice if they want to speak up. But how do we deal with it within ourselves is first to acknowledge that anything we dislike in someone else is just a reflection of our own shadow, which is fine. Again, no judgment, something we've disowned in ourselves. And that we are still connected to this human being. That person is your brother, whether you like it or not. So that can lead to compassion, to say, all right, this person has whatever, has his lessons to learn. But my job is to make sure that my boundary is not crossed. He doesn't get to talk over me. He doesn't get to, right? So that's my protecting, in a loving way, protecting myself. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think that's very important, because like at the end of the day it affects, like if that person has a big ego, and like in work relationship, for example, like, and then you're like, like, why this person it's acting like this or telling me this, and then it makes me feel like uncomfortable, like he's trying to make me feel like small, or like things like that. And like, that's when I come up with like, okay, this person has a big ego or is insecure, so that's why he's trying to push me down, right? Or to make me feel like my job is not worth it, he will do it better, whatever. And then a way to don't take it in, just a way to like let it go. So it's being compassion. And in that case, for example, I speak up, right? I just didn't just let him to think whatever he thinks. I just speak up and I say, well, that's not the case because this and this and that, right? But then, because it's not only like our relationship, in this case it's also a friend, so it's kind of like like, like it's just like don't too easy to let go. But so then what I'm hearing is like, recognize it, and have a little bit of compassion. I mean, not a little bit, like have a compassion, like everyone. I mean, to be honest, when you start talking, I was like, why do I even have to put a reason of why he did that comment? Like, why do I have to analyze, oh, he did that because he's insecure, or he did that because he has a big ego? Like, I don't have to.
You don't have to do any of that. All it is saying, oh, I recognize this guy has a big ego. All right, whatever, that understanding that it upsets me because he's encroaching on my time, or treating me, or as you said, trying to make me feel like my job isn't good enough. But again, only you can successfully allow him to do that. He has no power over you. He may try to and be all blustery and big, but you are the only one who makes you feel the way you want to feel, right? And so that's where the boundaries come in. So if, as you said, you'll speak up, and especially if he's a friend, then you could say, hey man, at a different time, that thing you said the other day was kind of, that hit me weird. That didn't feel good. Let's try that again. Let's talk about it differently. I almost started to feel like you were criticizing my work. Is there an issue you want to talk about? genuine curiosity, right?
Mhm.
Let's chat about
Mhm.
it. Let's just have a chat. So you stay firm in who you are, and nobody can knock you around, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good to practice that. And when you say that like with another man at work or everything, I remember like probably like I told you when we were doing therapy together, like men have like scream at me before or like talk like louder. And instead of like me doing something, I just cry. And I was like, what the fuck? Like why am this weak, you know?
Mhm.
And so yes, like that happened to me a couple of times, and I'm just like, I'm waiting for the next one to like raise his voice, you know,
There
because
you go.
like, you know,
Yep,
I'm not gonna cry and I'm just gonna speak up, you know.
that's
But
right.
what I'm saying this is because like when the time comes with I have a judgment for another person, I'm gonna reflect on that and probably go deeper into, you know, like it's a shadow first, and then I have a little compassion, and also don't let, I mean, like you say, if I feel the way I feel, it's on me.
Yeah.
Probably they are not even trying to make me feel that way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's a good thing, because that means you can control it, and
Mm,
you can decide how you want to feel in any situation. That's true for all of us. Yeah.
yeah.
So now
Okay.
we have 2 minutes, and then I have to leave. I have my heart out at
Yeah.
2 o'clock. So
No,
anybody
no.
else would like to ask any questions, or and thank you, Gloria, because these are gems that you're dropping, because this is what I mean. We need specific issues that you're grappling with. That's how we move through them, right? So and whatever it is that you all bring to class or to these coaching calls is really just so helpful. And the more specific you can get, the better, because we can actually work with the materials, instead
Mhm.
of just theory. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
No,
like
thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to all. Yeah.
yeah, of course. Of course. Um, anybody else? We got a minute. Okay. All right. Well, listen, I'm excited. We're working on self-talk on Tuesday. So that'll be fun. And of course, it's a continuation of the non-judgment and and that work. So I look forward to seeing you then. And as always, if you want to email me at any point between classes and sessions, feel free, because if something occurs to you and you want to just talk to me about it before, then I'll bring it up in class, right? So feel free to do that. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. We'll see you
Have a
on
great
Tuesday.
weekend. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.